Hi guys, I'm Sophie, this is Books and Things, and today I'm going to be talking about the books that I read in February. So the first book that I read in February was actually a book that I started in January, and so I included it in the books that I read in January. It was Mistborn. I'm not going to talk about it again. I talked about it in that for a while. It was great, 5 stars, you should go read it. The second book that I read in January, so the first one that I'm going to really count, was The Rook by Daniel O'Malley. This was a book that was sent to me by one of my subscribers, and I loved it. I thought it was really, really good, and there will be a review up for this quite soon. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was really funny. I thought it was very, very well written. Like, it was 5 stars for me. I've only kind of pinpointed 2 things that annoyed me. But they're things that I'm going to talk about more in the review than in this, but it was a 5-star book. It was really good. I really enjoyed it. It's got a very I think it's a very good kind of stepping stone book. If you're usually reading YA and you kind of want to break into adult fiction, I think this is a really good one, because although I don't think it's quite adult fiction, I think it's very mature YA. I don't think, like, it's about a woman in her 30s rather than a teenager, but it does have a very kind of YA feel to it, despite not really being about teenagers. So I really enjoyed this and I gave it 5 stars. I then read a book which I don't really know how, like, I know how I feel about the book. I don't know how you're gonna react to me having read this book. I read it on my phone on my Kindle app, and I also read the sequel like a week later on my Kindle app, and it's The Boss by Abigail Barnett. I'll put a picture. And this is kind of, the reason that I read this is because I have repeatedly seen a series of tweets from the actress that played Matilda in the film Matilda, saying if you really want to read smutty fiction, you should read the Boss series instead of 50 Shades of Grey. And so I was kind of like, is it really going to be that good? Is it really? And then I read it. It was very good. Like, it's not the most original story. Like, woman and her boss have a relationship. It's not really very work ethical. It's all naughty and secretive and all of that. But I really liked it. I thought it was really well written. I was amazed at how well the communication between the 2 characters was. Like, it was really good. Like, it was a very grown-up relationship as well, and I don't mean like the BDSM stuff, because obviously that's like, you've got to talk about that, but I mean a lot of YA relationships, and I think a lot of what people who dislike YA dislike about YA relationships is the lack of communication and the kind of angsty, oh my god, are we a couple, are we not a couple, are we in love, are we not in love, and I don't know how they feel, why won't they tell me how they feel? I feel like this, but of course I'm not going to tell them that I feel that way. And there wasn't any of that. Like, they were like, shit still happened, but it was very much a kind of like, they were very open about how they felt with each other, and it was really refreshingly nice about that. There was also like a side LGBT relationship, which was really cool. So I gave the first one 4 stars. Like, it wasn't the best thing I've ever read, but it was good, it was interesting. I read it in a day. Like, it was really, really easy to read. So I gave the first one 4 stars, and I then, when I read the sequel, gave that 3 stars. I felt that the story was slightly more clunky in the second book. I am going to continue the series. So far there are 4 books out, so I am going to keep reading them. I don't know if there's only going to be 4 in the series. I think it's kind of just like she's going to write them until she is bored of writing them. In between reading the first book of the Boss series and the second, I read These Broken Stars by Amy Kaufman and Megan Spooner. This was February's book of the month for Booksplosion. I gave this 4 stars. I liked it. I thought it was a little bit predictable. The basic plot line is there's this massive spaceship, like flying through, I was going to say sailing through space, flying through space, and then it crashes, and the only survivors of the crash are these 2 characters on the front, Lilac and, can't remember how his name, Tarver, and they're kind of stranded on this planet, and they don't really know what's going on, and they need to be rescued, but literally everyone else is dead. And it's a romance story. It's a typical YA kind of like YA romance. It was good. It was mushy. It was pretty like fluffy. Wasn't too emotionally crushing. I really liked it. I'm going to read the second one when I can afford it and when the second one's out in paperback. I think I gave this 4 stars. After finishing these Broken Stars, I moved on to Blood Promise by Rochelle Mead. This is the 4th book in the Vampire Academy series. I really didn't like this book. Like, I'm continuing the series because the characters that I like, I want to know what happens to them. But I feel like the whole series has kind of just gone downhill since, like, book 2. Book 1 was a 4-star, book 2 was 5, book 3 was 4 again, and this was 2 stars. It was, I found this book so irritating. The characters made like no sense at all. It's a lot longer than the others, and so you'd think more would happen, but actually most of it was just really irritating monologue that didn't add anything to the story, didn't continue the plot on, and really just made me want to smack the main character. There were several things in this book that I can't really go into much detail about unless you've read the others, but there were several bits where it wasn't realistic for her to know information. And because it was written in first person point of view, she had to know it, otherwise the audience wouldn't, or she had to find it but not understand it, and it made no sense for her to know this information. It made no sense, and also the book contradicted itself so often, especially with time passing. So because there were 2 separate kind of storylines happening, one would happen and they'd be like, oh, it's been over a week, I don't know how long it's been, but it's been days and days and days and days. And then you'd go back to the other story and it would be like, oh yeah, the last time you saw us was yesterday. And I was like, no, it's been at least 3 weeks. Like, you need... pay attention to your own writing, please. So, I found this one super irritating, and it only got 2 stars. After finishing Bloodlines, I read Memoirs of a Teenage Amnesiac. This was a reread for me, but like the first time I read this book was back in like 2009, 2008-ish. Memoirs of a Teenage Amnesiac is basically about this girl called Naomi who falls down a flight of stairs at her high school and bangs her head and suffers amnesia. And it's not just like she forgets the last couple of weeks, she forgets 4 whole years of her life. And when she wakes up, she's in hospital, she doesn't know where her dad arrives, and she doesn't really know where her mum is, and she doesn't know who her best friend is, and she doesn't know who her boyfriend is, and she doesn't really fit into her old life anymore because she's not really the same person, despite being the same person. It's a really interesting book and I really enjoyed it. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. See you guys next time with another video. Bye!